Hey everyone, it's great to be here with you guys. I'm coming to you from the comfort of my home in my living room, taking advantage of this stormy weather that we're having in North Carolina because while Gavin, my newborn, he slept for 4 hours twice last night, so a total of 8 hours in two 4 hour increments. I did not sleep for that second half. I've been sleeping so well since I've had him in April, but just this past week, he's been sleeping for these 4 hour increments instead of like an hour or 2 hour increments. But nevertheless, either way, I've been up since 2 a.m. And like I said, I'm just taking advantage of this stormy weather that we're having and feeling a little bit cozy about it. So I'm coming to you guys today because we're talking about support. Get MotiVETed supports you. Okay, so the reason why I want to talk to you guys about support is because one, we're going to have a podcast that's being released in the coming weeks on support and the importance of a support network or support system when it comes to you achieving your goals. And I want to share with you a story of mine or a couple stories of mine that really changed the landscape for me when it came to having a support system versus not having a support system. So early on in my well-being journey, or really before I had a well-being journey, when I was in my well-being struggles, I didn't feel as though I had much of a support system. I did have some people who were supporting me, but I felt very alone. And a lot of the reasoning behind that was because even though those people were existent in my life, I was holding a lot of things very close to the vest. I wasn't sharing my full truth. And therefore, to support, how can someone support you if they don't completely understand what you're going through? And so it wasn't until later that I became a little bit more open and transparent about what I was going through. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I really opened up about it. And that it wasn't until I felt like I was kind of over it that I felt the most comfortable in sharing what I was experiencing back then. But I will say that in my 30s, I experienced a divorce. And so that was a big, obviously a life event. And I'm from Michigan originally, and my ex-husband and I were living in North Carolina at the time. And when we had decided to get divorced, he wanted to retire in Michigan, and he had offered, to move me back to Michigan with him. And then we would proceed with the separation and the divorce. But I had been in North Carolina for a few years. I had bought a house, and I had, the kids. We had an English Mastiff and my cat, Penelope. And, I wanted not just stability for myself, but I wanted stability for them. Odin had this beautiful backyard. We had become accustomed to this house. I was so proud of where I had come in my life. And so that, the divorce, it was far different than any other breakup that I had experienced. It was a lifestyle change, and this is with a person who I had known and, been involved with for over 10 years. So it was a big life change for me, but we were ready. And not only did we support each other in some small ways or even in some big ways, I mean, we had a pretty civil, very amicable divorce. I mean, it wasn't without hurt feelings, but we were in all relativity, looking at other people's relationships and the end of their relationships, objectively speaking, it was a pretty, decent separation. So nevertheless, though, the the initial shock of it, right? Like you're 30 something and you're getting divorced, whatever, I won't walk you guys through every thought that I had, but that initial shock of it left me feeling very vulnerable. And the question was, do I go home to Michigan to what I know historically, or do I stay in North Carolina and look toward the future and build something. Well, I had people. And so I knew that these people were the people that I was most connected with. I was actually more connected with these people at this time in my life than I was most of the people that I knew back in Michigan. And so I knew that these people would be the support system for me to go through this divorce, go through this journey, and get out the other side of it, and become the phoenix rising, to where it's something even better than what you were before, And so it took a lot for me to lean into that, of course, to be open about what I was going through, to be open about what I was experiencing and the challenges and the fear, the frustrations, because at that time, a lot of things had to become quite private. I wasn't active on social media. It was a time where I was navigating something that I had never obviously navigated before, but I was completely confident in my abilities to do this. And so it was just a matter of figuring out what those stepping stones were and then being on the right path. But I felt more empowered because of the people who I was connected with, because I had the support system around me. I had my neighbors, I had my friends, I had a roommate at the time. And I looked up and I would look up and I would think, this is it. These are my people. I can do this, with them by my side. And without that, when I think back to 15 years ago, I have had multiple cheerleaders in my life, people who were at my very first vet clinic, who I just actually spoke with one of the women that I've worked with a couple weeks ago. And we were talking about the work that I'm doing now. And she's always been a voice in my mind. She's always been a cheerleader of mine, guiding me and supporting me through my journey in life. And knowing that some of it was aimless and some of it was, just figuring things out, but she was always there supporting me. And, I've had times where I actually, I had a huge career shift at one point, and fear crept in. It was knocking at the door saying, do you want to be the victim or do you want to take the empowered role? And I immediately called one of my friends who I said, I need you to do some business coaching with me, because I don't want to feel like the victim. I don't want to feel like I don't have any control over this. And I'm going to choose to see this as an opportunity. And I'm going to need your help in order to do that. And the moment that I did that, I went from that fear mode into empowered mode. So the very first step of you making a decision and then saying, hey, to anyone, to the people here at Get MotiVETed, to the community of Get MotiVETed in the veterinary community, to the person who lives next door to you. The moment you make a commitment and you say, hey, will you have my back down this journey? That is you taking steps toward your dream life, toward, the life that you're wanting to live, toward your well-being, to healing, to, becoming the light that you seek. Because, chances are if you're struggling, you're in a dark place, and I've been there. So support systems are very important. And I think we underestimate the value and the power of them. The other thing that a lot of veterinary professionals manage and sometimes don't manage that great is introversion. A lot of us are introverts. So it is not in our nature to reach out and to be vulnerable, to be, transparent, or to, even if you're taking small talk, we've been to these conferences where you go and no one's asking you your life story. They're just saying like, hey, what clinic do you work at? And you're like, oh gosh, don't talk to me, But sometimes those conferences can be even lonely, and loneliness is an epidemic. It's it's a very isolating feeling, and it can really layer on to something that you're struggling with. So you have this base problem that you may be, facing, or some sort of challenge that you're facing, and then you have loneliness on top of it. It can be really soul crushing to feel that isolation and to feel that loneliness. And sometimes it's even worse if you are around people. If you've ever felt alone in your own home and there's other humans that are around, that can sometimes feel worse than when you're physically by yourself. So it's about connecting. And the work that we do with Get MotiVETed, the work that we do with mindfulness that we teach you guys, it's going to help you connect. It's going to help you connect not only to other people, but to yourself. It's going to help connect you to the things that really matter, because those initial steps are going to get you where you want to go. So take that for what it is worth to you. If you guys want to learn more, we have a new RACE CE approved course out at getmotiveteduniversity.com. If you guys feel like you like this video and you want to share it with a friend, like it, subscribe, share it with a friend, post it on your page, because, it's all about awareness. It's all about supporting one another. So we want you to know that Get MotiVETed supports you, and so does the community.